Hi friends, Miss Kristi here, and I am so excited to be together again cooking in the kitchen. Today we are learning how to make an oven-made grilled cheese. We actually end up cooking this grilled cheese right in the oven, along with a few other things that we do as we put it together. This is a super simple snack that you can make. We're gonna have fun making this together today, and I'm so glad you're here. Now, the first step to cooking and working in the kitchen is to wash our hands. While I wash my hands with soap and warm water for at least 20 seconds, let's go over the ingredients and supplies that you'll need to gather to cook along today. The ingredients you need are 2 slices of bread, 2 slices of cheese, half a tablespoon of butter. The supplies you'll need are a baking sheet, oven mitts for safety, a butter knife, a small bowl, pastry brush, spatula, and parchment paper, which is optional. Okay, great. My hands are clean, your hands are clean. We've gathered our ingredients and supplies, so let's get started. Now, the very first step when making this oven-made grilled cheese is to preheat our oven to 450 degrees. So let's do that. All right, while the oven is preheated, let's put our grilled cheese together. And there's a couple little things that we do as we make this that make it super simple. And because we pop it in the oven, it turns out pretty perfect. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to grab my baking sheet and just set it right in front of me. And then I have parchment paper. As I always say, it's optional. It just makes your life a little bit easier because it's easy to clean up. So I'm gonna put my baking sheet and my parchment paper right in front of me, and then grab your 2 pieces of bread. Okay, so I have sourdough bread, just because this is the type of bread that I like to use and I like to cook with and I like to eat. But any type of bread that you use at your house is completely fine. So just as long as you have 2 slices of bread, and you're gonna put them right in front of you on your baking sheet, and then grab your cheese. So I just have like an American cheese. You need 2 slices. That's just what I'm recommending when you make this and you try and make it again. If you want more cheese on your grilled cheese, feel free to add more. If it was too cheesy, you can always add less. We're gonna start with 2 slices. Or if you don't even have sliced cheese and you just have shredded cheese, you could also put shredded cheese. As long as we're getting 2 pieces of bread and some cheese in the middle, we're good to go. So I'm just gonna take my slices of cheese, and you wanna put them right on your bottom piece, whichever piece you choose to be the bottom. And you wanna try to make sure that your cheese doesn't go over the edges, or else a lot of your cheese will melt off your sandwich when we cook it in the oven. So you're just kinda putting it right in the middle. Again, this is a super simple snack or small meal that you can make yourself. It's really just bread and cheese and butter. So take your top piece of bread and just set it right on top of the cheese. So now we have what looks like a sandwich. The next step we're gonna do is actually melt the butter and then brush it on our bread. Because sometimes I feel like with grilled cheese, the hardest part is getting the butter to spread on the bread, especially if you're using like a stick of butter. So I like to melt it and then brush it on, and it gets a little bit golden and crunchy in the oven. So this is kind of one of those different things that you might do for this type of sandwich. Take your butter, and your knife. So you want your butter and your knife and your small bowl, because we're gonna melt this. We need half a tablespoon of butter. So we kind of talked about it in a couple episodes previously, but a tablespoon of butter, if you have a stick like mine, has lines on it. So each line represents a tablespoon. We only need half a tablespoon. So I'm gonna find a line on my butter, and I'm just gonna go a little bit less than it, so half. If you don't get the exact amount, it's not a huge deal, because we're just spreading it onto our bread once it's melted, and you can use as much as you want. but that's just like a general idea. So I'm gonna cut, unless we're using our butter knife, if you have a stick of butter, you're gonna cut about half a tablespoon. Set your butter to the side because we won't need it after that. And then if yours still has the wrapping on it like mine, you just wanna unwrap it. And then I'm gonna pop it in the little bowl that we have, and we're gonna melt it in the microwave for 20 seconds. Now, if you melt it and it's not completely melted, you can always do a little bit more in your microwave, but we're just gonna start with a general 20 seconds and see how it goes. We just want it to be in a liquid form so it makes it easy to brush onto our bread. So let's microwave this for 20 seconds. All right, so I have melted this for about 20 seconds, and you just kind of want to see where it starts to get a little bit creamy because we're gonna brush it on with our pastry brush. Again, this is just a step that makes it a little bit easier to spread that butter because I find that's the hardest part sometimes about making grilled cheese is to get it to spread on your bread without your bread falling apart. Okay, so you're just gonna take your butter and your pastry brush, just like I'm doing here, dunk it in, and then kind of spread it. Brush it on like we're painting our bread with butter. Once you have one side done, you're just gonna carefully flip your sandwich over. You wanna make sure that the cheese doesn't fall out. So just as best as you can. If it does, we can always just put it back on. Not a huge deal, right? Cooking is learning. So I'm gonna flip it over, take my pastry brush, dunk it back in the butter, and then brush it on. And that's why I said if you cut too much butter off your stick of butter, you don't have to use it all. You're just gonna kind of cover each piece. If you end up not having enough butter, you can always cut a little bit more. And also if you don't have a stick of butter and you're using like a tub of butter, you can just take your 1 tablespoon and scoop it out and then melt it from there too. So if you have different kinds of butter, we can still work with it. We just need about a half a tablespoon. All right, so that's it. It is ready to go into the oven. How exciting. I'm just gonna kind of put it in the middle just so it cooks evenly, but we have both sides buttered, we have our cheese in the middle, and now all we have to do is put it in the oven and set a 5-minute timer. Oh, perfect timing, my oven is ready. So I'm gonna put it in, I'm gonna set a 5-minute timer, and then we're gonna take it out, bring it back to our space, and flip it, and it goes back in for 5 minutes. And then it turns out crunchy and golden, and it's really good. So let's do the first 5 minutes. All right, our first 5-minute timer just went off. So a couple things here. We're gonna put our oven mitts on and take our grilled cheese out of the oven and put it back on your workspace. So I have like an oven mitt or a pot holder to protect my counter because we're gonna take it out and we're gonna flip it carefully. The pan's gonna be hot, so we'll talk about it. And then we put it back in for 5 more minutes. All right, so I'm gonna put my oven mitts on and we're gonna get it out of the oven. All right, it is starting to look good and warm and toasty. Now, again, the pan is very hot, so you need help with this part. You know, maybe you ask someone to help you with it, but the biggest thing is don't touch the pan and grab your spatula. And we're basically just gonna very carefully flip it over. The cheese isn't completely melted yet because it still has 5 more minutes to cook. So we just wanna get it flipped on the pan so that we can put it back in for 5 minutes. So how I'm gonna do this is I'm just gonna kind of grab the top. The bread's not super hot, so it shouldn't burn you. And you just wanna carefully flip it over with your spatula. And again, not touching the pan. I'm gonna put my oven mitts back on. We're gonna put it back in the oven for 5 more minutes and then it's done. All right, but you can kind of see it's starting to get golden and crunchy, so I'm excited. It smells really good. All right, back in the oven for 5 more minutes. All right, friends, our second 5-minute timer just went off, which means our grilled cheese is done. I'm gonna put my oven mitts on and we're gonna take it out and let it cool on our counter. Again, I have something protecting it for about a minute until the pan has cooled down a little bit so we don't burn ourselves. So turn off your oven, put your oven mitts on and take it out and let it cool for about 1 minute. All right, friends, it's been about a minute or two. My pan has cooled down, so I'm not worried about burning myself as I take off my grilled cheese and I'm gonna pop it on a plate at this point because it's done. That was it. Bread, butter, and cheese. We used our oven for about 10 minutes, and now we have this yummy snack or small meal. So I'm just gonna take my spatula and kind of carefully scoop it off. Again, which is why the parchment paper makes it a little bit easier because it slides right off. But here we have it. With just these 3 ingredients, you, again, are now able to make yourself this small snack or a meal. You can use the butter knife that we had to cut it in half too, or if you just wanna dig in and just take a big bite of this sandwich. Again, you can use any type of bread that you like, any type of cheese. This is just a general idea of how to put it together and make it turn out golden and crunchy. So I do hope you try and make this or try and make it again. And when you do, let me know how it goes. I love getting to hear from you. So you can leave me a comment. Let me know if you have any questions. You can even send me a picture of how your grilled cheese turned out. I would love to get to see it. And maybe we'll get to share it on next week's episode. Now, speaking of next week, on next week's episode, which is episode 18, we are learning how to make a no-bake chocolate dip. So no bake meaning we don't have to use our oven, we don't have to melt anything in the microwave. We just put a few ingredients in the blender and we end up with a dip that you can dunk so many things in. Fruit, graham crackers, leftover sugar cookies from a few weeks ago, anything that you feel could use a little extra chocolatiness. My favorite is dunking apple slices. So in order to cook along and make this no-bake chocolate dip next week, these are the ingredients that you'll need to have in your kitchen. 1 avocado, 1/4 cup of real maple syrup, 1/3 cup unsweetened cocoa powder, 1 teaspoon vanilla extract, 3 tablespoons of milk, and then fruit for dunking or graham crackers, anything you'd like to dunk into it. Well, friends, our time together today is almost over. I do hope you've enjoyed learning how to make this grilled cheese in the oven. I know I had fun and I already can't wait to cook together again next time. But before you say goodbye to this episode, make sure to click subscribe if you haven't already. You just have to click the little picture of me in the corner. That way you don't miss next week's episode. It'll be out Friday, and I'll see you then. Bye, friends.